Well, just got back from my trip. Let's unpack. Shirt, biohazardous materials, the new Rolling Stone with the 5 Seconds of Summer cover ripped out because obviously... Well, what do we have here? Hey everyone, welcome to a very special and unexpected episode of Spinner Reviews. So, like I've said on the channel before, I live in San Diego, but a weird thing is that I don't really go to LA all that often, even though it's just a couple counties north of me. But this weekend, there was a little family event, went to Santa Barbara, and the timing just happened to line up for me to head down to LA afterwards to catch a taping of the hilarious internet-based game show at midnight, which was awesome, and I expected to be the big highlight of the trip, but we got there a couple hours early, and whenever I'm in an area I'm not in all that often, I like to go on the Record Store Day website and see if there's any record stores nearby, and just so happened that about a 20-minute walk away was Amoeba. Now, for those unfamiliar, Amoeba is basically the record store to end all record stores. They have a pretty big channel on YouTube. They have this series called What's in My Bag, where they have popular musicians come over and talk about the music they're into and the music they're getting there. And if it has been hyped up in your mind from watching that channel, then yeah, it's basically everything you'd expect. And it's just like the little things you notice that are in, like, I don't know, a Best Buy or a Fry's or something, just happens to be in a record store. Like, it has baskets to hold everything you're getting. This is like the only record store I can think of that requires a map of both of its 2 stories, multiple aisles with the little numbers on the top of them. It's just something that if you're a music fan and you're going to like the LA, Hollywood area, that's definitely a place to stop by at some point. So I figured I'd do my own little what's in my bag with what I got here. Starting of course with like the merch, I kinda went all in with that. Got the t-shirt, got the sticker to put on my guitar case, got the LP slip mat, even got a couple guitar picks with the logo on it. Before I get to the actual music, I did make sure to stop at the movie section on the second floor for a little bit, and I picked up a copy of Batman Begins for $4, which I thought was a really good deal. I'd never actually seen this before, and I really wanted to. So yeah, I'm gonna get around to that at some point. Anyway, let's move on to the music, starting with my first CD here, 21 Pilots' Blurry Face. This is basically my only album out of the top 10 that I don't have physically yet, aside from maybe Kendrick. So I made sure to pick this thing up. The only reason why it wasn't like my top 3 is that there are a couple songs I don't like on it. But aside from that, this basically has everything that you'd want in a 21 Pilots album, with some extra stuff added in. If you haven't checked this out, I strongly recommend you do. And I'm going to talk about this on the podcast, but I love that Stressed Out is now like this big crossover hit that's weird, but still kind of awesome. So yeah, Blurry Face.
Test me though, just because I play the piano, it doesn't mean I'm not willing to take you down. I'm sorry.
And the other CD I got was Beck's Midnight Vultures. I found it in the clearance section for like $3, and I knew I'd pick this thing up. There are a lot of Beck albums that I just really haven't revisited in a couple years in full, and this is one that I really regret not listening to more often. This is a prime example of the idea that Beck can do anything, basically, and make it awesome. This is basically his funk album. This came only a year after Mutations, and I can only imagine the reaction from fans at that time, because as I saw on his Wikipedia page, this album did not do very well on its initial release, and I don't hear people really talking about it as one of his greatest albums, and I don't know how I'd rank it, but this is still a ridiculously fun, like, funk, rock, electronic, singer-songwriter-ish listen. It is completely crazy, especially when you listen to some of the lyrics on songs like Nicotine and Gravy and Mixed Business and songs like that. I can hear maybe a little bit of skewering of the cliches, maybe there's some inner social commentary in there that I gotta delve more into, but just on the surface at least, this is the most fun Beck has ever sounded. And with the release of that newer single Dreams that he dropped last year, which is also a really upbeat pop song, I'm kinda hoping he makes another album like this in the future, since An album like this proves that he can make a full pop album if he wants, and it would be one of the best pop albums of the year. So yeah, Midnight Vultures, if you haven't listened to it, check this thing out.
I want to find the logic of all sex laws. Let the handcuffs slip off your wrist. I'll let you be my chaperone.
And the last two things are the vinyl releases. Now, I'm not going to talk too much about these because, as I'm going to say in my resolutions thing, I'm planning on launching a series where I talk about my vinyl, but I'm just going to briefly talk about them here. First one is the Decemberists Flora Songs EP. This is an EP that they put out late last year that I didn't really know about until a few weeks ago, honestly. As you guys might know, What a Terrible World, What a Beautiful World just made it into my top 15 of last year, so I'm really curious if this is going to live up to that. It's a 10-inch EP with 5 new songs on it. So, yeah, should be interesting. I'll let you guys know about that.
But I will never be your familiar soul. And I will never see your inferior hole.
And the last thing I got in Amoeba was Gotye's Like Drawing Blood. So I'm not sure if I mentioned this on the channel yet, but one of my all-time favorite albums, or at least favorites of the last decade or so, is Gotye's Making Mirrors. It's a fantastic album. I'm not going to talk about that here. So I was thinking about maybe getting one of my all-time favorite albums on vinyl, just searching through their rock vinyl section. I couldn't find that, but what I did find was his debut album, Like Drawing Blood. I've never actually listened to his first 2 albums, the ones he dropped before this. This is apparently from like 2004, I think. I do really love like the big quote-unquote single from this, Heart's a Mess. And as I'm going to talk about in the vinyl series, I try not to buy albums that I haven't heard in full anymore, but I have a lot of faith in this album just on the back of what he's been doing lately. By the way, Gotye, when's that Follow to Making Mirrors coming out? As much as I don't like to rush artists, that album came out in 2011, and ever since like maybe 2013, I've been kind of concerned, okay, when's he going to follow it up? It just hasn't come yet.
You long to fear, doubt, and distrust. You just threw away the key to your heart.
So yeah, that's what's in my bag, and I'm going to make sure to stop by there again next time in that area, just because it's such an experience for like a music nerd to go to and see this giant store of what you're mainly interested in. I'm going to be putting out my Spin Reviews Resolutions video in a day or two, so stick around for that, and I'll see you later.